is important, and let me mention here that while we construct roads, we also need to take into the local communities' considerations.
Right.
We need to involve the local communities, the local indigenous people in these areas.
And are we involving them?
Not yet, as of now. There are plans to involve them. We call model villages we are constructing across as a counter to the well-off society village concept by China. But the local communities will stay back if there are primary schools, secondary schools available, if there are healthcare centers available, if there are other, government of India subsidized, bodies are available.
Right.
Food markets, small mandis, for instance.
Essentially all that you need for a daily living.
That's right. So, and it is a general trend for people to go away from where there are no facilities.
Right.
If their children don't get educational institutions, they go to the nearest mohalla, nearest taluk, nearest mandal, and they tend to, because it's an aspiration for everyone to get their children educated.
Right.
And a decent living standard that they want to have. It's a common desire for everyone. And so the Indian side, because in 2005, there was an agreement with China on the 10 political parameters. And one of the political parameters is not to contest areas where there is population already. In other words, populated areas should not be traded in any final territorial dispute resolution. So as a result, when Mr. Kiran Rijiju was the Minister of State, he launched a $800 million project for repopulating the LAC areas. It was not quite successful for various reasons. We are relatively more slower in these things. But most importantly, I think we should push this with the local communities' involvement because they know what they require. They know, they want things which conditioned by the local situation. So we need to involve more of the local communities, the village panchayats, the others in this process. The councils that you have here in Northeast, district councils and others. Thereby, there is a necessity to make them as part of the decision-making process.
So, what is the thinking, what do you think is the thinking of the government and the roadmap that we are creating to actually reach the kind of objectives that you've just spoken about, involving the community?
I think in terms of these objectives, the main effort has to be also to bring in the small and medium enterprises,
right.
Give them microcredits, give them some productive assets to be built. Say, for instance, pineapple cultivation, depending on the weather, of course, and here the lab to land experiments also need to be in tune with the local communities. The agriculture universities that we have all across in the Northeast, they need to be involved in this social community process. Most important, I think we need to generate assets. For example, if sheep cultivation is the main occupation of these shepherds, then probably grass growing or greenery according to the local conditions. Again, in Ladakh they don't like greenery, and if you promote greenery, then there will be a lot of rain and these mud houses will collapse. So it has to be tuned into the local.
So it has to be according to the ecosystem that is in a particular place.
So most important, we need to create productive assets, and we need to preserve the identity of these local communities as well by providing a series of incentives for them.
I think there's already, I know for a fact that at least there's the Holy Waterfalls, which is the Chumigatse in Tawang, and there's the Holy Tree, and we know about. So there is a move to actually sort of then try and understand the identity, the culture, and also look at cultural purity, which I think some of the forces and the establishment is, I think, trying to look at very seriously.
Absolutely. I think this began recently, a year and a half ago, and I think we are doing good, although we woke up late, but still it is a good measure. When we compare the other side of the LAC, they have no such. In fact, we see that after August 29, 2020, Tibet Forum meeting, they want to sinicize Tibetan Buddhism. They want to completely assimilate the Tibetan culture and impose a Han culture on the Tibetan side. And Xi Jinping visited Tibet in July last year, and he visited areas which are just a few kilometers from Arunachal Pradesh, north of Arunachal Pradesh, in Ningchi prefecture, where they're building these the roadways and a whole lot of infrastructure projects. So I think we need to send a signal that we care for the people in these among the local communities here across the LAC.
Preserving their identity.
Preserving their cultural identity, and it's very important for us to showcase that. Most important for the next generations that modernization doesn't mean we abolish many of those local cultures.
Absolutely.
So that is what the message we need to give.
Right.